With us tonight is Joe, and I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Joe Mato. He is here to talk to us about Maybrook and the Maybrook Line, and a lot of focus on the Poughkeepsie River Bridge of the New Haven Railroad. Just a brief history: Joe grew up in the area in Danbury, next to the Maybrook Line. Started, I think, probably like a lot of us at a young age, with the interest in the railroad. However, kind of went the other way and became a commercial airline pilot, and but has spent time working at the Danbury Railroad Museum. God, I can't talk tonight. And has started a Central New England Railway bus tour with the late Bernie Rudberg, who some of you may know from his work in the restoration of the Hopewell Junction Depot. Even though Bernie has passed, up until COVID hit, Joe still ran the CNE tours. Always an interesting topic. Joe's only request to the group, and if you want to put your questions in the chat, otherwise he has asked that you hold your questions to the end. And Joe, with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, hi everybody. Leonard, I think you took our bus trip one time, or a couple times. And I grew up on the Maybrook Line. I didn't know what it was called at the time. I just knew that the train whistled and I ran down the hill and waved at the conductor. My mom told my wife that I was about 3 years old, so I can't even remember. I do remember doing it. It's just at a very young age. I've actually been working in Maybrook at the museum, and for the last 25 years, and that's really helped out a lot. There's one fellow still from the old days, and he'll be 99 years old a month or two, and he's spry as hell. He's just amazing, and he's full of stories, and they're all good. So I hung around with him a lot. Maybrook, it's funny because when it was originally built, it was called Orange Junction. And Maybrook is a kind of, I think that's a marketing term that New Haven came out with when they bought it in 1905. And I never knew what it was called, to be honest with you. I started working at the museum in Danbury, and they started talking about the Maybrook Line. And I was thinking, man, that sounds like it's a Wizard from Oz or something. In a magical place, right? This it's a picture that Woody Cohen took the day of the fire. And if you notice on the bottom, it says exactly 10 years earlier, in 1964, they had exactly the same kind of fire. The only difference was the New Haven was running it, and they had fire buckets, and they could put the fire out. Penn Central did 10 years later is they dumped all the fire buckets. They broke the water main so you couldn't get water to the bridge, and made it almost impossible to fight the fire. They laid off all the maintenance people also. So that's fine. Maybrook, which was originally called Orange Junction, past the Poughkeepsie Bridge, down past Hopewell Junction and Danbury, and down to the shoreline where they ended up in Cedar Hill, which was the big yard for the New Haven. A tip of about 120 miles long, and carried a lot of freight. Go ahead. They originally wanted to put one pile in the middle of the river, and that was talked out of by all the bridge designers. So they ended up having to get another charter with 4 piers. That's the later design with 4 piers. And you notice that they're all masonry. Okay, it was originally chartered in 1871. And Harvey Eastman, who was the mayor of Poughkeepsie, was instrumental in getting it chartered. The first work was in October 1873, where they built the piling next to Poughkeepsie. And unfortunately, that was the time of the big panic. And they basically stopped work, and they were backed by Thompson of the Pennsylvania Railroad, and they never got the money. When he died, the relatives wouldn't give any money, so they started working again in 1876 through 1878, and then it died for about 8 years, at which time they lost Harvey Eastman. He died at about 45 years old. In 1886, they had new backers, restarted work, and the work was complete around Christmas time of 1888. Go ahead. Now, if you look at the pilings, they're about 100 feet wide by about 60 feet. And you look inside your house and you realize these puppies are giant. And what they had to do is go down about 140 feet till they got into solid gravel, which they could use for their footings. Go ahead. And you see here where it's sharp, and it was pounded down by the tugs there as far in the ground as it could, and then they cleaned out all the stuff that was inside. And when they used cement, they used the natural cement, like the Romans used to use, and it was like self-repairing. If you had a problem, it would repair itself. Go ahead. The thing that killed me was they used the metal risers. You just point. Okay. That saved that saved a couple of weeks building these. And what they had to do was put piers in the water, and they had to pound them in about 150 feet. So they're pretty long. They're lashed together. And so they put one at a time, one of the trusses at a time. And this is the first one. Go ahead. And you can see it's complete. And they're starting work from the sides. And what they would do is build the cantilevers out from the edge. And that's a good idea right there, what they were doing. So you have two trusses, and the rest of it all is cantilevers. Pretty amazing. This is one of the first bridges that was built out of steel. It made a big difference. Here you are, almost done. West Shore. And there you are in the middle. Waiting for the second pier to come up to height. Second truss, I mean. Go ahead. It was extensively modified to take heavier power around 1916. And you can see the supports are all much more massive than they were before. And that's a good picture when it was completed. And you see how much lighter it was. It really didn't have the weight bearing capacity it had later on. A large part of that was due to the fact that they put the track in the center of the bridge instead of having two railroad. They had one, and it was centered. Okay. My wife wants you to know that it's operated by a walkway over the Hudson. I have this on because when you have a railroad, you need to get freight. And all these little railroads basically use the bridge. And this is from like central states, so Baltimore and Ohio and Western Maryland were instrumental in getting this going. There are 11 railroads involved, and the Lehigh and Hudson River was the one that really pushed. And they worked hand in glove with the New Haven. Go ahead. Yeah, we're open 1 to 4 every weekend through the end of October. And we'll be there this weekend. Go ahead. And Tony told me that his first year working on the railroad, when he got back from World War II, it was December 1947, and Christmas Day, it snowed about 3 feet, at which time the temperature went down to about 35 to below zero. And it's pretty cold for that part of the world. He said no matter what you did, you couldn't get warm. He also said they used a Jordan spreader. In fact, pretty sure you guys know what a Jordan spreader is. It's wonderful for cleaning up snow like this. And that's what they used. This was taken at the icing shed, looking over towards the car shed. That's a picture of Maybrook. It was about 3 miles long. And at the bottom is the western end, the eastbound arrival, and above that is the westbound departure. Go ahead. Where you see all the cars is the hump yard. That's the eastbound yard, and they had a hump. They pushed the cars down, and they made trains out of them. I don't know what you want me to do.
Oh, you want to point it?
That's all westbound on the bottom.
Okay. Next.
Okay.
Okay.
And you see the turntables, about a 27 stall roundhouse. And where you see all the cars on the bottom is the westbound arrival. Go ahead. Okay, not much there. That's the engine facilities. There's a maintenance building in back, your coal tower, water tower, sand tower, ash pit, and lots of room for coal cars. Go ahead. On the very top of the picture on the left side is where the Lehigh and Hudson River entered Maybrook. On the right side, on top, is where the entrance is from Campbell Hall. Just below that, they have the less than carload freight in that building. Then you have your hump yard down here. Okay. This was the yard being built in 1912. A lot of excavating. And this is a picture looking up at the ice house, looking north. Originally, they had bungalows that were built by the Lehigh and Hudson River. There was no how there was no real village here. It kind of grew up along the yard, so he said they had about 20 houses to start with. Go ahead. Lehigh Hill, they called it. Okay, go ahead. And the turntable. Original turntable. And now, where the fellow was walking in the middle, they later put a tunnel underneath the track. And this way you could go underneath the rails across the yard. And Tony said the kids used to play, they used to gamble on the far side, and the cops would try chasing them. And, they had a lot of fun. Okay. The original office building. Later the Walter Johnson building, and later the Brookmay Coke Company. The original depot was moved over to Jewel Street, where it's a residence now. And that's the car barn. Some goodies outside. A wedding hoist. Has some wooden coach and a wooden caboose. Your coal chute, big hook, and other accessories out there. And straight ahead is the icing platform on the right side. The building's still there, no roof, but the platform's gone. Okay. Okay. You could see it was very busy, and they'd have to ice a complete train. They were bringing vegetables and meat all the way across the country. So it was important they had a lot of ice, which they did. Okay. That's the new office building. When Penn Central left, they took the roof off it so they didn't have to pay taxes on it. And it's sitting there. The roundhouse was pulled up and they put yellow freight. Unfortunately, that came to an end too. And that's another picture of the roundhouse area. Coal pocket, sand house. The ash pit is right underneath the coal pocket. And roundhouse again. This is taken just before they tore it down. Inside the roundhouse. But what's really interesting is they had bamboo doors. And they're like a bamboo reed kind of thing. And it worked really well. Go ahead. And we saw this. Go ahead. Go ahead. That's the turntable. Once again. Another one of Tony's pictures of 47. And you can see how well the Jordan spreader did. Did a pretty good job. Once a year around in the summer, they had the circus come to town. Everybody got a day off from school, and they had a great time playing with the animals. And another. Okay. There's a man passing signals, standing up on the roof like they used to do before they had radios. Some New Haven gondolas with pipes. Okay. Transformer from General Electric. Now, this is a C8 around 1920. And they had passenger service through the 1920s. Okay. Date before 1920. Okay. I like this picture of Ernie Blake. Seems like a real cool guy. But he was the car shop blacksmith. Okay. These guys I love to death. The fellow on the left side has like a bowling rod, and the fellow on the right has a Johnson bar. Another C&E picture. It's Tony Morano in front, Pete McLaughlin in the middle, and it's me in back having a great time. They would sit together and talk for hours about, stuff they used to do. It was incredible to listen to. This is the Railroad YMCA, and you could eat here almost for nothing. It was, get a room. It was a great place, and Penn Central torched that too. On the right side is the gymnasium. Unfortunately, it didn't burn, so we're using it now. It's now a city-owned office building. And the administration building, I don't have to say much about that. Right. This is on top of the hill. You had to run up a hill from Hopewell Junction. And basically what I'm showing is that they used all this further on down the line, this fill. So go ahead. Right here in this beautiful lake. Everybody's, oh yeah, it's such a great lake. And when they try to build a track there, it was all full of peat. And anything they put in just got gobbled up. They finally used about 80,000 cubic yards of fill before they were stable enough to lay tracks. And that was one track. They had the same problem when they came back for the second track later on. It was, I think it would have been a lot easier just to build on to the little bit to the right and blast a bit. And that way you wouldn't have needed all that fill. But anyhow. Looks pretty. About 10 miles west of there or east of there is Towners. And they have a crossing with the Harlem division. Originally, they had a Howe truss bridge, and they put a covered bridge on it, and they used all these stilts and built up on the stilts. Well, this is another area that was very weak, and they had to do a lot of filling later on. Go ahead. And this is what it looks like. This is in Brewster. And when this line was originally built by the New York and New England, part of the purpose was to get passenger service to New York City. So what they did was they built over the Harlem, that bridge, the trestle, and they connected with the Putnam division. And they had a station and everything. The fellow that drew this is Vic Westman. He did a lot of covers for Railroad Magazine, and actually he was an engineer on the Harlem, and they gave him an office in Grand Central Station for layovers where he could draw and stuff. He was a very popular guy. Go ahead. That's Brewster Station. Okay. And fairgrounds in Danbury that was a pretty cool place. And they had a water tower. They had one of the DL 109s. This was taken right after the war. Beautiful engine. It's about a mile from where I grew up. And in the summertime, they had it well stocked with flowers. And you can see the big garden Mr. Staley's taking care of. Okay. This is currently, it was before the current station was built. about 1900 or so. And the depot, the New England Depot was back here by the division headquarters. And the buildings are still there. And the division headquarters was one story, and then they started running the CNE to Danbury from Maybrook. And that was a lot of work. Okay. That's the roundhouse. That unfortunately got torched also. Luckily, they didn't torch the Free House. Go ahead. Another view. That's when I had money for paint. Okay. When they didn't. Yeah. The roundhouse again. And the McCarthy coal shed facing west. Monstrous building. Another view. That's the Still River, which flooded in 1955, and there's about 5 feet of water in the yard. And this sign was on top of the McCarthy coal shed, and it lasted about till 1920, and they finally took it down because all the kids were climbing up it, which is about 60, 70 feet high, and I guess they didn't want them killing themselves. But it's a great. Danbury was the hat center of the world, and all the hats came out of Danbury. So that's all I have at this point. What are your questions?
Could you repeat what you just said? That Danbury was what center of the world?
The hat center.
Hat center. Okay, thank you.
People used to wear hats. And then President Kennedy didn't wear a hat. Then nobody else wore hats.
Thanks. That was great. Those were fantastic photographs.
But that was the whole town was hats. My father was a hatter. I worked in a hat shop. Everybody worked in a hat shop.
Huh. Thank you.
Joe, I think part of that line has been owned by Metro North. They're planning to abandon it. Do you have the current status of that?
Part of it was owned by Metro North. They're thinking about abandoning it. If anything, I think they're trying to revive it.
The Maybrook Line is running into the Harlem, just north of Brewster.
Right.
And they want to run service out of Danbury, which I'd be honest with you, I don't think it's going to be any faster than what they have. What they have to do, they used to have electric motors, and they were faster than hell. Well, to save money, they got rid of the wires, and they got diesels. the problem with the diesels is they really have no acceleration. And like Pete McLaughlin, when he first started out, he worked on the motors. He was a hustler. So he used to run them around the yard and stuff. And he knew how they could really haul. So it's kind of sorry to see what's going on because they don't have the times they had in 1870. They went faster in 1870 than they do now.
Yeah.
I'm not joking. This is true. And they got rid of the wires, so basically management could pocket the money. A lot of money in the copper. They've had hundreds of studies, but they'll never put them up. It costs too much. So,
Well, is the Maybrook Line all totally abandoned now?
well, that's completely torn up.
Yeah, okay.
Maybrook Line completely abandoned, yeah.
Yeah, it is. Except the
A small
the little piece from Danbury. The line in Connecticut's okay, because they don't tear up railroads in Connecticut.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was wondering. Mhm.
But the piece going out to, I'm trying to think what it is. Just north of Brewster, where they connect. The Maybrook Line had a connection put in by Penn Central. So,
Mhm.
as far as the service goes from Danbury on the Maybrook Line to Brewster, I don't know if that'll ever happen or not. I think they have too much money to spend getting the shoreline operational. They've got a lot of slow running areas. The soft the ground isn't really built up. They have work to do on the shoreline before they mess around. They've got bridges. They're like $1 billion a piece they got to repair, like in Norwalk. They got a lot of money to spend. It's all going to be spent there.
I believe they still use the track down into Beacon, don't they?
Oh, Leonard, can you repeat your question again?
I'm saying, I think they still use the track down to Beacon.
They still use some of the track down to Beacon.
No, that was pulled up too.
Oh.
I'm not sure why they did that, but they did it. I think they still have the little maintenance center in Hopewell that Metro North uses for training the track guys.
Because the Hopewell station has been restored beautifully.
Yes, that's true. Well, again, thanks and credit to Bernie when nobody actually believed it's going to happen, but he did it.
Yeah, I went on most of the tours that Bernie ran back in the day. I enjoyed them very much. I was hoping this program would show some more stuff in the Connecticut area around Simsbury and places like that, but they didn't.
We haven't quite get to that yet, Leonard. We're just, talking around Danbury area and Maybrook Line right now. Joe showed many slides on from Winstead to Millerton. I don't know if you ever attended any of it.
I enjoyed this, though. A lot of pictures I'd never seen before. I'm less familiar with the New York part than I am with the Connecticut part.
More of a comment, Joe, than a question, but it was fascinating to see all those pictures of Maybrook Yard and what it used to be, and now going on, you know, something like Google Earth and looking to see just how nothing is there anymore.
Right.
That's not really true because they have one spur that goes through the yard, right to Route 84. They have a lot of industries on it. They have Staples has a couple cars a day, a couple lumber warehouses, a liquor warehouse, and Crestview propane, where they get up to 8 cars a day of propane, and they're huge. So they're getting a lot of business. You know, they're thinking of doing something multi modal there, being right next to Route 84. Since Yellow Freight isn't there anymore, there's a good chance that might go through.
Yes, I don't know if you guys know about the Yellow Trucking Company. I think 30,000 people lost their job. I'm not sure if it's 30,000. Yeah. They owe a lot of money to the federal government. They also owe the town, you know, the property tax, and many people out of job. It really affected the town, the village of Maybrook. You can see it. So it's rough.
Okay.
Eric, do you think there is any other questions? I know Peter.
I'll put that out to the group. Anybody else have any questions for Joe? If not, Joe, on behalf of the group, I want to thank you for presenting to us tonight. I think, like Lenny pointed out, a lot of interesting pictures and some that hadn't been seen before. And, you know, for a lot of us who aren't familiar with that area, some good information on, and the operation of the Poughkeepsie Bridge and the Maybrook Line. So I want to thank you very much for presenting to us tonight.
Sure. Well, I'm glad to see what you guys are doing. So,
Well, we're certainly trying anyways.
I think we're all.
So yeah, so Rose, Joe, thank you very much for presenting to us tonight. Again, really appreciate your time. And for everybody else, we'll see you back next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.